Tinybird and Confluent are a match made in serverless heaven. You use Tinybird to build low-latency APIs over streaming data at scale, and use Confluent to stream that data without having to set up or maintain your own Kafka infrastructure. Now in this screencast, I'll introduce you to the Tinybird Confluent connector, so you can start streaming from Confluent to Tinybird in seconds. Let's get started. Now let's start in Confluent Cloud, and I've set up a free tier USE's cluster for this demo. So let's go ahead and create a topic. So we'll click Create Topic and then give it a name. And I'm just going to leave it with the default of 6 partitions. This is all very basic for the demo. And now let's just produce a sample message to this topic so that we have some data to work with. Now let's head over to the Tinybird UI. Now I have an empty workspace and we're just going to create a new data source. So we'll click Add New Data Source and find Confluent in the interface. And you'll see that we're prompted for the server connection details. So let's head back over to Confluent Cloud to get those details. Back in Confluent Cloud, we'll go to the cluster settings and copy over the Bootstrap server to Tinybird. You can also go ahead and give it a connection name if you'd like. And then the next thing we need to do is create an API key so that Tinybird can access this cluster. So over under API keys, we'll click Create Key, manage the access for that key, and then set it up with a description, and then copy the key and the secret over to Tinybird. Now, you can also configure the SASL mechanism for this connection and select the option to use schema registry to decode Avro messages if that's the serialization system that you're using. And when you click Next, you'll see the topic that we just created. So we can go ahead and select that topic, give the consumer group a unique name, or take the default if you want, and then click Next. Now, finally, you can choose whether you want to ingest all the records since the beginning of the topic or ingest only new records after the connection is created. I'm going to go ahead and choose the former. So I'll click Next, and then you'll see that message we produced earlier when we created the topic has been imported, and the schema for that message has been guessed. You'll also notice that Tinybird has flattened the nested JSON in that address column into distinct columns. So if you want to keep those as a single column, you'll need to use the CLI. Here we can change the column data types if we want to, and we can choose which columns we want to ingest into our Tinybird data source. We can also change the schema here if we'd like. So once we have our schema how we want it, let's go ahead and click Create Data Source. And now you have a Confluent Kafka data source in Tinybird with that message we just produced. So now I'm going to start streaming some messages to that topic, and we'll see them coming into the data source. And the magic of Tinybird is I can go up here, click Create Pipe, and then write some SQL to get the metrics I want from that data, things like grouped aggregations or filters or anything like that. This one here is obviously pretty simple. And then once I've got the metrics I want, I can just come up here, click that button, and instantly publish those metrics as low latency APIs. Of course, you can also do this in the Tinybird CLI. I'd encourage you to go check out the documentation if that's something you're interested in. Thanks. Have a good one.